Hello, welcome back to another Theory Thursday. Today we are looking at different types of charts. What are the most popular, depending on what genre you're in? What kind of charts can you expect to see? How can you prep for these gigs? What are you looking at? So we're going over charts today. What are the different types and most popular? I've got my Timex Weekender on with the Navy band today. Got my red tie. As always, if you like any of these watches or ties, I always link them down in the description. Just a little fun thing I do because I'm a very amateur watch collector. Everything I have is below $100, I think. So, and then as always, if you've been enjoying these, please like and subscribe. It helps out the channel tremendously. And I love making these, and I want to keep making them. So I think that's it. So, what are the different charts? Let's go. Okay, I'm going to break this down into three different categories here. First, chord charts. Second, lead sheets. And third, specific parts. Okay. First of all, and I'll throw some images up on the screen here while I'm tightening my mic. First off, chord charts. What do I mean when I'm talking about a chord chart? John, you just said we're talking about charts today. Aren't they all charts? Yeah. So people use different terms for these. This is just what I use and what I've noticed other people use, especially around here in Nashville. So a chord chart could be a couple different things. Although there's one thing it always has, and that's chords. So for example, this is a chord chart of Free Fallin' by Tom Petty. This is the song I've played many, many times. And something like this, you'll see all over the internet. You can find these on ultimateguitartab.com. There's Chordy, there's millions of, well, maybe not millions, but tons and tons and tons of sites that have chord charts like this. And you can print these. And when I remember I was 11 years old, I had a binder. It's just this thick, full of songs I loved and wanted to learn. And it was just all of these chord charts. Now, there's a couple things to mention when you're looking at something like this. When you're looking at Free Fallin', there's no time signature, there's no key, there's no beats per minute. It doesn't tell you when you're supposed to play chords, how fast, or anything like that. There's just lyrics and there's chords. So to look at a chord chart like this, you really have to know the tune. Right, you have to know how the strumming goes. You have to know the rhythm. You have to know the rhythm of the lyrics. So it's very, very bare bones. And talking about bare bones, some chord charts don't even have the lyrics. So here's one that I have. One of the artists I worked with in Nashville here, Lori Rain. This is one of her tunes, and it is an example of a tune that just uses the same chord progression over and over and over again. So this is all I had to write down. So even this I would call a chord chart because it gives you the chords. Of course, I've played this enough that I know what the song sounds like. I know how to start it, stuff like that. So the basis of a chord chart, what does it need to have? It needs to have the chords. It's not going to tell you how fast. It's not going to tell you any specifics like even what key you're in, what time signature you're in, anything like that. You have to know the tune if you're going to be playing off of a chord chart or playing with someone who knows it, because you can just follow along, right? So always chords. Sometimes it has lyrics. No specifications on BPM, rhythm, anything like that. So that's what I would call a chord chart. Now, the next step up, we're in section 2 now, is a lead sheet. Now, this term I've heard most common in jazz, because when you're looking at a real book, it is full of lead sheets. Now, when I say lead sheet, what it has is, at the very minimum, it's got measures, it's got a time signature. Sometimes it has a BPM, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll just say a feel, like ballad or swing or straight. So sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It will have chords, if there are chords to be followed, and usually it'll have the melody on it as well. So what does that mean? That means multiple instruments can look off the same piece of music. So if I was playing a duo gig somewhere, if I was playing with a guitar or another C instrument like piano or whatever, we could both look off the same sheet of music. I could play the melody, they could play the chords, or vice versa, because everything you need to know is on that sheet of paper. It's got the measures, it's got the time signature, it's got rhythms on it, and so that would be a lead sheet. It's got everything you need to know, especially for multiple people, to look at the piece of music. So sometimes they don't have the melody on them. So an example of that would be like, well, here is Amazing Grace with the melody. So this is what a regular lead sheet would look like. So you can see it's got everything in there. I think this one might even have the BPM on it. It's got the time signature. It's got the measures laid out, so everything is specified. And it's got chords above the measures, so you know when you're supposed to be playing the chords. And it's got the melody underneath, so you can see exactly who's playing. You can follow along if you're playing with someone else. And that's that. Now, here is a version of a lead sheet without the melody. So this is the exact same song, but it's just the chords. Now, when would this be helpful? Sometimes you are in situations where people just know the melody, especially with something like Amazing Grace. It wouldn't be uncommon to see something like this, and you're just expected to know. If you're on melody, you would know. Da 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 da. Right. But that's the only thing we're missing here. We have a time signature. We have chords. We know when we're supposed to play the chords because it's all laid out there on the measures. So that's just another version of a lead sheet. Now, the third type of chart here is what I would call a specific part chart. And there are specific situations where you will run into this. It's if you're playing in a musical, if you're playing solo guitar, and if you're playing duets or anything. It's just a higher class of music, I almost want to say, and it's not to demean the other charts, but when we're talking about Bach or Beethoven or any of that stuff, I mean, the music is complex enough that you need to have everything written out for it. Does that make sense? As opposed to the Lori Rain tune we looked at, and all I needed to know was the four chords, and then you just repeat that over and over again, right? Whereas here's a Bach beret, right? I mean, the counterpoint going on, and I mean you can't just play an E minor chord and get the top melody over. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be the beret. You know what I mean? So here's a piece of Bach that we're looking at. You'll see everything is written out. I mean, everything that you're going to be playing. Nothing is left up to chance here. So not even the chords are over top here. Okay. Here's an example of something that I did that was musical related, I did a show with this guy, Jason Lyle Black, fantastic piano player, and he does shows all around the country, actually around the world now. And he plays soundtrack music, he plays classical music, he plays jazz, all on stage. And it was very important to know, because he plays with a click track as well, know when you're coming in, when you're resting. Everyone has to be on the same page. And when you're spread out like that, yeah, you need specific parts. So this, I'll throw up just the guitar part. So this is my part, and this. It's very similar to what you would see if you were playing in a musical, like Mamma Mia or something. This just happened to be a live show that he does. All it shows is what I'm supposed to be playing. There's tons of stuff going on outside of this, but this is all I need to be focused on. So this is a specific part for guitar. Okay, so those are the three main charts you're going to run into, and it really does depend on what genres you're into. So, I mean, if you're into pop, country, rock, most of those, it's just going to be the chord charts. And especially if you're learning songs that you already know and love and can sing already, it's just going to be these chord charts, and that's totally fine. I mean, you can find them everywhere. It gets you playing right away. It's fantastic. If you're into jazz, you're mainly, well, there's arguments going for whether you need music at all. But if you're going to be using music, it's going to be pretty much exclusively these lead sheets. You might run into specific parts if you're in a jazz band or a big band or something like that. But if you're playing solo or something, it's just going to be those lead sheets. And that's all that's in the real book. And then the step above that, if you're in the classical and all that, you're in the specific part territory where everything is written out. You're just following your thing. And if you're playing solo, like that Bach we looked at, everything is written out. Nothing is left up to chance. So those are the main charts. I think that's enough information for today. As always, if you've been enjoying these, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot, and I love making these, so I want to keep making them. So hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you for the next one.